from the Salvation Army National Headquarters, this is the Fight for Good podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Fight for Good podcast. I'm your host, Major Jamie Satterley, and here with me is the production coordinator for the publications department, Michelle Katsaris. How are you doing today, Michelle?
Hi, I'm good.
In today's podcast, we'll be sharing Michelle's interview with Bervelly Santime. Now, Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about who Bervelly is and why we chose to kind of highlight her here?
Yeah, so Bervelly is a very young girl. At the time of the interview, she was only 19. She might have turned 20 by now, but she is a college student and she is heavily involved in the Salvation Army. She grew up in the Salvation Army. She still helps out and she does her own thing, even at a corps closer to her school because she lives 6 hours away from her family. And she's still very active in the community and with her local corps. So her message was just super important because we like to showcase the younger generations and everything they're doing and just kind of showing that, the younger generations are going to be leading the Salvation Army one day. So we like to showcase that. And Bervelly is definitely going to be one of those people. Like, you have not heard the last of her because she's just amazing. And it just shocked me how young she was to hear everything that she had accomplished so far. She's very mature, very smart, and her story was very interesting.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I always love when we highlight young people. And, this traces all the way back to the Army's roots with, we had a 16-year-old Eliza Shirley. And so young people paving the way for the Army is not new. So I'm really excited to hear what Bervelly has to say and to keep an eye on her in the future. So join along with me, listeners, as we listen to Michelle's interview with Bervelly.
Bervelly, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm 19 years old. I am the oldest of two from my parents, Jean and Stephanie, who are also officers of the Salvation Army at Westbury Corps. I was born and raised in Long Island. I am bilingual, English and Haitian Creole, and yeah.
And you said your parents were officers, but did you always grow up in the Salvation Army, or did you kind of make the Army in a different way?
Well, yeah, actually, I grew up in the Army. My father is a second generation Salvationist. His younger sister is a third generation. My mother is first generation. So really, my entire life has been the Army.
So can you kind of tell us about your role in the Army? Like, what do you do? What are you working on? And there's no detail that's too small.
So back before I lived in Rochester for school, I co-taught dance, Sunday school, junior church. I helped out with brass band. I did beginner P-buzzing with the younger ones. I was part of the timber brigade. I helped with our before program feeding. So when the kids would come to the Corps after school, we would always have a meal prepared for them. We also do food distributions. So I also helped with that. I answer the phone. Sometimes I help decorate when we have special events. I also preach sometimes on Sundays if it's a youth Sunday, and I've also led the worship.
Oh, wow. So you preach at your church. Is that normal for people your age?
Actually, kind of. At our Corps, we have something called Youth Sundays where it's just the youth that do everything. Just to kind of get us used to, if the officers leave or if, some situation happens and the adults can't do it, we're always right there to just step in.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I think we're almost conditioned to when you're out of high school, you're 18 and you are told you're an adult. But you are 19 and you just said it yourself, oh, if the adults aren't there, we kind of take over.
Yeah. We don't consider, at our Corps, we don't consider ourselves adults until we're in our 30s.
I'm the same way. No, I totally get that. I'm not a Salvationist, and I still feel that I'm a child. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah,
it is hard. And so when you guys take over, and when you say the youth, what is that age gap usually? How young are people when they start to kind of take charge and lead at your Corps?
So It actually varies depending on what it is. I, as like the Sunday school teacher, I used to choose some kids to teach Sunday school themselves. And, I would help them prepare for that. And it would start from like as low as 9 to me being 19. And
Wow. And, I bet that really helps too, because if you are in a leading or leadership position in any job, in any place of the world, having good communication skills is so important and crucial. And I think sometimes we don't always learn that in school.
yeah, definitely.
Is that something that you feel like your core, your church really pushes, is being able to communicate and like speak in front of large amount of people?
Yeah, definitely. Us older ones, like we used to tell the younger ones all the time, like, we're not going to be here forever. Like we're here right now, but we have to start helping you guys to be in our position so that when we're not here, you can take over. And that way, like all the programs that we have at the core, they won't just die out. They'll keep going. And, you'll pass it on to the younger ones after you and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's completely true. Because like we were just saying that, sometimes the younger voices don't necessarily get heard. And again, not just in the Salvation Army, anywhere. And sometimes people don't take the younger generation seriously. So I think it's really cool that you guys are pushing to let them know that, there's going to be a new wave of people in the future and you're going to be that new wave of people. So it's important to know how to speak and how to be heard.
Yeah.
What are some challenges do you think that the Army is facing in today's world or even in the future?
Today, because of the pandemic, I think we're starting to lose like our youths because we're not meeting all the time. Like they used to say that the core was our second home because we were there all the time. Like even if we weren't doing programs, we were just there hanging out together. But now with COVID, that's kind of died away. And I feel like after COVID, it'll be really hard to pick that up again.
What do you think they could do to pick that up? Like, what are some ideas that you have?
Honestly, just outreach, just going out and into the community, knocking on doors, being like, we have these programs available. Even if we don't start right away with programs, just maybe an after school program to help them with homework or free childcare until the parents get home from work.
Yeah, that's actually a wonderful idea, especially the free childcare part, because that's almost unheard of nowadays.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know about you, but I saw a huge spike in people getting pregnant and giving birth during.
Yes.
My own brother had a baby. Like, it's a COVID baby. It's a quarantine.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a way to go, especially with because you bring in not only you help those with the childcare, those children then get to learn the values of the Salvation Army, but then the parents do as well, just by proxy. And you never know what a word of mouth can do. Someone's going to say like, I get free childcare from here. And then they bring their friends. And it's a great way to bring in a whole new community that probably never heard of the Salvation Army to begin with.
Yeah, it's a really great snowball effect.
Yeah. So what are some projects that you or your core or your family, any projects that you guys are currently working on?
Well, the core, we do food distributions every week. We have some organizations that donate food to us, so we prepare them into a box and we distribute it to whoever needs it in the community. Personally, I'm just focused on school and getting my career on the path that I want it to go in, but also discovering who I am and the impact I want to have on the world.
Definitely. And you said that you are a nursing student, right?
Yes.
Wow. Well, good luck with that. And then you mentioned that your core does food distribution. Do you guys hand out food at the core or do you deliver the food?
Well, it depends on the situation. We do hand them out at the core, like the line like wraps around blocks for times. But also there's some people who physically cannot or they're too far. And so we'll, go and deliver them the boxes if we're able to.
Okay. And if someone was interested in the food delivery or even the food distribution, what is like the best way to find more information about that?
You can contact the Corps officers. I can give you the number for Stephanie Santime, 516-263-0361, or Jean Santime, 516-232-1729. And they'll be able to, give you more information and direct you in whatever direction you need to go in.
That's awesome, because I think a lot of people, thank you for that, because a lot of people know that the Salvation Army does that kind of stuff, but they don't know how to get a hold of someone, to find out more.
Yeah.
There's a lot of corps and a lot of territories, which means a lot of websites. And people can get easily confused.
Definitely. And we also get confused with the family store a lot.
Yes. Yeah, even I do. So I get that. So who inspires you, to do the work that you do?
I actually have a number of inspirations. My grandparents on my mother's side, my grandfather came to the States by boat, and we would always hear the story growing up of how he was drinking the sweat out of his shirt just to survive the trip. And that just always stuck with me because, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here, because my aunts and uncles and my mom, they wouldn't have come to the States. So my grandpa, my grandmother, just because I love my grandma. We've always been close growing up. My parents, just because they've worked hard. They've worked extremely hard to make sure that me and my sibling had a great childhood, and we had everything that we needed, and they really provided, even if sometimes they didn't want us to see them struggling. They always were smiling through whatever it is that we were going through. But also the kids at my Corps and in my neighborhood growing up, they just inspire me because they're always smiling no matter what it is. They're always coming to the Corps happy, even if they're having things going on at home. And I just learn from them a lot. And so I just want to, hopefully inspire them as well to be able to leave the community, and whatever stereotype that's written for us, we could break those.
Yeah, and you kind of inspired two more questions. You said you want to be a mentor to the younger generations. Was there anyone who was a mentor to you when you were even younger than you are now?
Yeah. So the Corps officers who were at Westbury when I was growing up, specifically Major Lubin and his wife, Sister Eva, we called her. Ever since I was younger, she would always come get me at my house, and I would always be at the Corps with her. And just recently, she graduated college with her master's in social work, and it's just really an inspiration because she's not my age. She's obviously older, but she's still going to school, and she's still, getting her life where she wants her life to be, even though she was in the Army. They're retired now, but she went back to school and she got her master's, and now she's working as a social worker. And she's just amazing. I love her.
That's awesome. And then you also kind of mentioned, that you want to help break the stereotypes. Can you elaborate on that more? What are the stereotypes that you find that people in the Salvation Army kind of get? And what is your plan to help break them?
Within the Army, as an officer's kid, many people think officers' kids live off of their parents, and they kind of don't have a life of their own. But I obviously, I'm not living off my parents. I'm in Rochester for school. And I just want people to realize that officers' kids, they can do more than just be an officer's kid and be in the Army, but also within the community, being African American, living in a lower socioeconomic area, people assume that, or we're not always given opportunities to leave the community. And so many of the stereotypes is not graduating high school and becoming a gangbanger, or just working at McDonald's for the rest of your life. I want those kids to be like, she left the community, so I can too, because it's not written in the stars for us to just stay where we are.
Right. And that's definitely, internationally, there's there's good and bad places, I want to say, everywhere, or lower income everywhere. It's not just United States. It's not just New York. I don't think people realize that sometimes the world is so big and anyone can break that kind of glass ceiling that has been put on them. Because who had the right to put that ceiling there in the first place,
Exactly.
So kind of going back a bit more personal, what are some of your hobbies when you're not out there saving the world and breaking stereotypes? What are some things that you like to do to kind of unwind and recenter and, connect with God? What are some things that you like to do outside of work?
I have danced since I was 7. So dancing has always been a passion of mine, and it's always been something I've done just to kind of whatever emotion I was feeling, that's how I would communicate it, and that's how I would sort my thoughts in a way and kind of bring things into perspective. But when it comes to connecting with God, I connect with him through music. Many people find that weird, but it's just, I don't know, maybe it's because I've just been dancing for a long time. Like music is the way that I connect. So most of the time when I feel like I need like a spiritual uplift or a spiritual feeling, I just put on my Christian music. I dance or I just lay down and just think and reflect.
And when you say dance, what kind of dancing do you do?
I started out as ballet, but then I quit that. And I focused more on contemporary and hip hop, praise dance, Haitian dance, I guess you could call it.
Really?
Yeah.
What makes that different, the Haitian dancing? What makes it different compared to, I don't know, American dancing?
Yeah. Definitely the music, because there's different beats within the songs that moves your body differently than I guess if you would listen to American music, then you would dance.
Right.
Yeah.
Did your parents teach you that, or is it something you learned on your own?
It's like a combination of both. My parents, like my dad used to have this like really huge CD collection of Haitian music, and like we would always just put on a CD and just dance around the house. But it was also just watching videos, and I guess you could say it's written in my DNA.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. And then what is an interesting fact about you that most people don't know? And it could be anything.
I like to say that I'm bilingual. I think that's my superpower, being able to speak another language. But I can say that I'm trying to learn sign language.
Oh, wow.
So right now, I guess that would be the most interesting thing about me, trying to figure out ASL.
That's amazing. Well, it was so great to hear your story. Is there anything else that you kind of want our listeners or readers to know, whether it's Salvation Army or about you or just anything really? Any final comments?
I just want everyone to know that the Salvation Army is here, and it's something that was founded many years ago by William Booth, and it's still something that's great. And even if it's not known, like being part of the younger generation, like it's our job to make it known that there's this amazing organization out there that helps and actually helps.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you to Beverly for agreeing to be interviewed for the podcast. So if you want to check out Michelle's full interview with Beverly, we would encourage you to check out the warcry.org or go to your local Salvation Army and pick up a hard copy of the magazine. It's going to be in the September issue, so you won't want to miss it. That's going to end this episode of the Fight for Good podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the Fight for Good wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to follow the War Cry and Peer on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, this has been the Fight for Good podcast. See ya.
Subscribe to Fight for Good wherever you listen to podcasts.